Afternoon, YouTubey type people. Today on our iPad Pro series, we're going to be talking about bias effects. Now this is bias effects, and this is by Positive Grid. I'm not being paid to do any of this, just for full disclosure, but this is a very impressive guitar amp modeling software that can be used on your iPad. It can be used at a gig, it can be used in a practice room, it can be used really to kind of dial in and find what kind of amps and sounds you're looking for, so that maybe if you go to a real setup and you've only got a limited budget, instead of buying 20 pedals, you can buy the 5 that you need because you've decided through trying kind of virtual versions that that is right for you. Now, I know this isn't quite as good as a real amp setup, but you can do some things with this that are just absolutely out of this world. Now, this setup is one of the views. There are 2 amps running here where we've got 2 Marshall late 60s plexis. None of these pedals are turned on right now apart from the noise gate, which is useful because with high gain, that is pretty much what you would hear with the gain this high with 2 100 watt Marshalls running, and that's if you're lucky. But that is what those 2 plexis sound like. Now let me just quickly check my tuning. There's an inbuilt tuner, by the way, which there should be in any guitar program, let's be honest. If there's no tuner in your guitar program, then you need to be having words with the manufacturer, because that's a pretty essential thing. But I've used a lot of pedals over the years and a lot of plugins, and say, these are some of the most convincing that I've heard in a product at this kind of budget. I think I paid £10 for bias effects, which if you compare that with, you know, something like an Axe Effects, which is a very similar setup to this, that you're looking around £2,000. I think it's something like $2,400 in the US, which means it's 200 times more expensive. And I can tell you, this is not 200 times worse. I mean, it's not quite the same. All right, I'll have it. But this is pretty close. I mean, let's go back to the other layout. So this is a signal chain. So this comes in from the left. I come in at the left. I go through the pedals. I go to the amps. Then I go to any other effects that come after the amp. And that is about as simple as it gets. Now, if you click on either of the amps, you get all the knob settings for those amps. There's a clever splitter, which you can either choose one amp on a switch, or you can send some frequencies to one and some to another, which is a bit weird. Or you can send some to one and not as much to the other, but again, I keep it simple. I just send it to both, just straight. Now, I have this routed a little strangely. I have this routed through Audio Bus so that I can record the live output, so that I can play it back to you, so you don't just hear it through this lapel microphone that I've gotten, so you hear what you're actually supposed to hear. So hopefully you should get full stereo. Now, this is 2 plexis. Now, let's say we want a bit of a higher gain sound. I double tap the amp, and it gives me a set of choices, including a 77 silver faceplate Fender, a Vox AC30, Fender dual reverb. Let's look at the orange, British Rock 50. In fact, you know what? Let's just turn off one of these amps and just use one for a minute. So let's look at the orange. I never did like the sound of oranges myself. But where the original bias amp was just an amp modeler, if I was going to go the full British way, if I go into the drive pedal that's before it, you can buy several drives for this, but the ones it comes with by default, which are the ones I've used, are an Overdrive Pro, which I'm not sure what that model's, a Tube Screamer, Distortion X, Super Overdrive, which is a Boss DS1, and a Face Fuzz, which is the Arbiter Face Fuzz, pretty much. So if I put more gain in, a bit less volume, and nice. So let's really boost this to death into the, why is it? Oh, there we go. Boost and drive. Nice. Okay, so let's double that amp up and just try something else on the other side. Let's try, oh, if we're going for vintage, let's go back to that plexi and just crank the gain up. Now if I go to the mixer that's straight after the two amps, I get pan, so I'm going to go all left and all right. Let's start, well, there's a little delay knob, so I can add a few milliseconds delay on one side to make it sound huge. Let's just make the gate a bit more aggressive. That's filthy. Now, yeah, that's absolute filth. So let's start again from a newer. Let's look in the presets. So there's one called Frusciante, which has got a massive reverb. That's got a huge reverb on, and the two amps look to be identical, which is weird because they're panned left and right. Let's look for something a bit more, dream clean. Let's stick this on the neck mode. Okay, so we've got, big fat stereo chorus type thing. So this will be oh, this is quite a complex chorusing system that they've got going on. I like it. So that's going in from a massively complicated reverb into a Fender Duo Verb? Yeah, Fender Dual Reverb. So that's not going to distort at any point. But that is with my Les Paul on the neck pickup, and it's still quite bright. Let's try Rage in the Name. I'll have to really look for where that... Yeah, I need to sort my wiring out, but... I can imagine that sounding better with a Strat, really turning up the... That's awful. 90s grunge. Oh, that chorus is awful, but... Let's get a gate going and just shut that up a bit. Right, so that. That's pretty brutals with that going on right there. So let's say I want to make that double brutal and add a tube screamer in front of that, no drive, lots of level. Let's see what other kind of mod stuff we have. So we got an Octaver, that's just dirt. There's all sorts of stuff I haven't bought, but there's things like Poly Octaver, that's going to be a POG. There's delays. Ooh, tape delay. Let's try throwing a tape delay in there, and that's awful. So let's just take the time. So it's quite, there we go. Quite an intense reverb, no delay even, excuse me, where are my manners? So if I go, okay, you get the point. That is a really nice sounding delay that goes. Let's take the intensity. So it decays a little quicker, but that kind of. That sounds great. Now let's talk about cost for a minute. So this cost me £10. The iPad I already had, but I think the model I have would be £700 or £800, so that's quite a lot. But like I said, I already had it because I already use it for several other things. The camera adapter USB things, £30. The Apogee Jam, which I'm plugging in with, they're about £80, but that keeps it simple because there's no in, there's no out, there's no... If you use an interface, it gets complicated quickly. But what I wanted out of this was to plug this in and go. Simple. And I can just use the headphone output from the iPad for whatever else I need. Keeps it simple. So that, all in all, is about £900, and that's if I didn't have an iPad to start with. If I did, we're looking at about £110, £120, which compared to an Axe FX or a Kemper is way less. And this does more than make guitar sounds. I can also edit video on it. I can also do all my internet type stuff. Everything else that an iPad does, whereas an Axe FX unit, as great as they are, and I love them, it only does one thing. And this I could take on tour with me. As long as I keep the battery charged, I could use it all day on tour as my kind of internet rig and social media and games to keep me occupied and video editing and all the rest. But at showtime, I can plug this in, and the next video I'm going to do is we're going to plug this into some actual amps and guitar speakers, and we're going to make some serious noise. Stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. I'm Adam Steele for the Hot Pole Studios. If you found that useful, let me know in the comments. Give us a like, subscribe. Please, that really means a lot to us, subscribing. And hopefully I'll see you soon.